So this little bird's coming limping on one leg, and we look underneath. There's chronic pododermatitis or bumblefoot on one toe. It doesn't really explain the extreme lameness. You can actually see this area here of dead skin. But what we can also see, this joint here, which is called the intertarsal joint, is very, very swollen. And I don't know if you can see this big protrusion here, which I'm going to look at. If I try and bend the leg, it's actually quite difficult. I can bend it about 90 degrees. Whereas if you take the healthy leg, you can see it's not swollen at all, and it just bends right up very easily. So we've got arthritis and arthrosis in this leg. Try and go, I think what we're going to try and do. So it's just really beautiful seeing some of the most beautiful creatures in the world. It's incredible that if you take a picture from here, just the tail and the beauty and the, and just imagine. It's a privilege to work with such incredible species. And if I could see UV, which I can't, just know that this beauty that you see on the feathers is like 100 times better with birds seeing the whole UV spectrum. Let me just feel high up from the leg. See the pus kind of.
Yeah. Quite a strong smell to these birds too.
I can't smell
Trouble
anything.
is that it's-
Western ducks.
So we'll go home. It'll go home. These birds, we're going to try. It's very difficult to, when you've got chronic arthritis and you've had. So I'm going to clean this out a little bit more,
Keep aiming for me.
and I'll send him home on an antibiotic, on an anti-inflammatory, and just see how we go.
You sedated these birds at all?
Ideally, we should have had a bit of luck from them, but no. We've got Eithan handling, who's one of our senior nurses here, and because he's so gentle and handling them so well, this bird, even though it's not handled, is very relaxed. He's just putting just the right pressure, just the right energy,
Just the right spots.
and just the right spots. And so even though this is a bit painful, we could use a little bit of local, and the bird's fine. And that's the best way to do it. But there's still, there's deep-seated infection in this foot. Deep-seated pus in here. Deep-seated pussy wounds.
We've got mites.
Okay.
I just saw one on the eye.
Katie, or Dakota, I need some flush.
Ah, they're crawling all over me.
AIL. Here's your chance to spray Ethan. And this is what happens with vet nurses.
All right, we're gonna now pack this with antibiotics and anti-inflammatories. We've cleaned it a little bit.
Head.
Ethan's been declared.
I can feel them crawling on my hand.
See them actually.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Like a small bandage or something like that.
Let me get more on your head.
Essentially, if you're a bird vet, you get unusual cases to treat. And we've got a peacock. It comes from a religious institution. They absolutely love this bird. And it came in this morning unable to stand. We've had him in a wheelchair all afternoon, and now that I've taken him out the wheelchair, given him calories, nutrition, parasite treatments, looking a lot better. Now, we're going to try and take a stomach tube and take a tube and pass a tube. You can actually see it's quite a long tube. Through his mouth, through his esophagus, into his crop, which is an area before the stomach that stores food. And by giving him this, and his antibiotic and his anti-inflammatory, he'll have nutrition for the next, it's equivalent to a full meal, because he's not eating well in hospital and he's sick. So we haven't had too many peacocks because they're not the most common pets. As you know, they're from Asia, but they're just beautiful. What we had to do here, which is very sad, and we don't normally admit to it, but unfortunately we cut some of the tail feathers in this case because he was just too big for our cage, our indoor cage, and he's here for a few days. So it was very sad to have to cut those magnificent tail feathers.
Well, he was one side heavy, so he was
Yes.
just a bit easy.
So I'll take a towel to protect myself from the wings and the legs. Gently wrap it around him. We gently wrap it around him. And now that I've got him relatively secure, so the towel's just to protect, it stops his wings flapping and I've got complete control. If I had a pulse watch on, my pulse would be 60. I'm completely relaxed. So now we just take a little baby's head. It's obviously not used to being handled. So I open the beak and I drop the tablet, the antibiotic and the anti-inflammatory, and I push it down. We now take the tube. It's quite long. I've got to make sure it goes into the right tube, the right pipe, because if it goes into the trachea, the bird will die. So what I do is I feel the trachea, and I can see it, and I'll bypass it and go. We can see it going down into the esophagus, and there's a storage organ a bit further down. And then we're going to very gently, very calmly, very peacefully, very gradually put 60 mils of very healthy gruel into its crop. It's actually a hand rearing formula for babies to hand rear babies, but it'll do the trick for a little bird that's not eating well. And after that, please try stand for us, baby. Ethan, can we put a bit of paper on top of it? Sure. So it's fantastic to see him standing. He came in not standing, and I wonder if the parasites had a role in his inability to stand.
And to be clear, you only cut about 3 feathers.
Leave it out.
Because
Okay.
they're not
Three
full grown.
feathers, and here's one that we found in the cage today.
That's the length of most of the feathers.
And if you take a look at that, just a little top, how unbelievably pretty it is. Isn't nature beautiful? And the colours.